This would be a huge gamble by the Philadelphia 76ers if they make this move leading up to the 2025 NBA draft. Coming up next Thursday, hard to believe that it's already here, but the Sixers are the team tied with the most smoke to them right now. It seems like it's a surefire thing. Cooper Flag will be number 1 to the Mavericks. Sounds like a 90% chance Dylan Harper at number 2, but they're to the Spurs. But there have been rumors that the Sixers might look to move up. Maybe the Spurs aren't fully in love with Dylan Harper as well. They might look to move back and get some more assets, potentially go get a guy like Kevin Durant or go get a guy like Giannis. But the Sixers are sitting there at number 3 with kind of all the chips in front of them, and basically, I think for most of the part, the draft starts there with the Sixers. What do they do with those chips, and kind of what gamble do they make? Do they sit and pick at 3? We've heard, various reports. VJ Edgecombe, Ace Bailey, Trey Johnson seems like the group in there. They've also been tied to trading up to number 2, which most likely would be to select Dylan Harper, or they've also been tied to trading back, and that's what I want to talk about here today. I think it would be a huge gamble to trade back, but sitting here at number 3, I still think it's wise to keep these options open. I kind of want to touch on if they do trade back to one of these potential, rumored trades that they've been linked to so far. I want to touch on a couple guys that they might look to potentially pick at that next spot in the draft. This would be with the New Orleans Pelicans trading back to number 7 overall. And the rumor, the potential trade that's in the mix here from Kevin O'Connor over at Yahoo, and he said the New Orleans Pelicans like Ace Bailey and could attempt to trade up to the Sixers to acquire the 3rd overall pick. He says here in his article, I've heard the Pelicans at number 7 like Ace Bailey. Joe Dumars is there. Sounds like he really likes Ace Bailey. Could try to trade up to number 3 to Philly or number 4 with Charlotte. That to me is the best case scenario for the Sixers if you trade down 4 spots. So when you look at this scenario laid out here potentially with the Philadelphia 76ers maybe going back from 3 to 7, you have to think, all right, if they're doing that, what are you getting? It sounds like either Trey Murphy or Herb Jones would most likely be part of that package, and then you would probably acquire the 7th overall pick as well. And that kind of fits, I think, the best of both worlds timeline, where you're potentially getting one of these win-now type players to add to the timeline now, but also trading back and getting still a really young, promising player for the future potentially. But you also kind of look at the other side of the fence, like, are we ever going to be having the opportunity to pick a guy as talented, as an Ace Bailey? Say what you want about him, his polarizing attributes, but that's a really talented player there at number 3. Does he help you win, come October and November? No, not really at this moment, but 3-4 years down the line, we could look back and he could be the best scorer out of this entire draft class. Or do you look to trade back and get one of these prospects that we're going to touch on today? That's what we're kind of here to break down and look at it both sides of the fence in that type of regard. I know people are dead set on, we need forwards, we need big guys to help with this team. No more guards. But I think at this point, the Sixers are continuing to keep all options open. And I think it's worthy to do some due diligence on these players that, in this scenario would be there at 7 most likely. Maybe one of these guys is gone by the time 7 comes around. But I think there is a real good chance that one of these players that we're going to talk about in just a few moments here is sitting there at number 7 when the Philadelphia 76ers are on the clock if they do eventually make this trade with the New Orleans Pelicans. And I think if this is a trade that happens, it isn't a trade it's a trade that wouldn't happen until draft night. I think they would like to see the dust settle in front of them at 1 and 2 with obviously Flag going 1. There's no doubt about that. But see for sure what happens at number 2, because we could be hearing different things, but the Sixers probably know a little bit more than everyone on the outside, at least at the moment. So I think the Sixers will wait and see kind of what happens in front of them before they make a decision. But it does sound like, there's a lot of smoke with this team, and I wouldn't be surprised if they look to move back at all. So there's 2 players that I think the Sixers could potentially be looking to target if they do slide back that help them not only today, not only tomorrow, but down the line as well, and I think would be, really good long-term players for this Philadelphia 76ers team. The first one I want to touch on is Egor Demin. A little bit of a more of a wild card, a little bit more of a risk type of pick, and maybe even still here at number 7, a little bit of a reach. But if you remember at the beginning of the season, he was up there being discussed with Cooper Flag, Ace Bailey, and Dylan Harper as potentially one of the 4 to 5 best prospects in this entire draft class. Had a really strong start to the season his freshman year at BYU, but he moved, I think he moved down some draft boards a little bit as the season went on. But still, a really young player, just in his first year playing like American basketball, coming over from Russia, and he has a really nice freshman season in the Big 12. I think he's a guy, if he went back, he could have played himself into being maybe a top 5 pick if some of the things that he needs to improve on improved. But when you look at Egor Demin, he's that jumbo playmaker type of guy. And say what you want about him, he had some really good flashes in his time at the Sixers. Obviously, his career has gone in a straight downward spiral since he left Philadelphia. But he's kind of got that Ben Simmons attribute to him where he's that big playmaker. He's really good with the ball in his hands. He has that grab and go ability to get the rebound off the glass and push the break. And I think for the people that are talking about, all right, we don't need any more guards, this is a guy that is a guard. He's going to have the ball in his hands a lot, but he's also 6'9" as well. He gives you that length. He gives you that height. He's the ability to rebound, 4 rebounds a game and 5.5 assists per game. I think you can make an argument he's the best overall passer in this entire draft class. So when you're sitting there at number 7 and you think, okay, we have the scoring and the playmaking ability with two guys that can not only shoot the ball but also can get to the rim and score in the mid-range in Jared McCain and Tyrese Maxey. And then we have a really good shooter in Quentin Grimes who showed a pretty lethal scoring ability to his own right last year. We need a guy who can kind of play make, set these dudes up, and be a table setter. He doesn't have to go out there and average 15 points a game. Egor Demin can come in next year and average 9 points and 5 assists and 4 rebounds, and I think that's a successful season. He's going to have to add some weight and have to get a little bit stronger to work on his defense to guard some of these bigger players on the wing potentially. But I think he has all the makings there of being a really high-level playmaker and a distributor at the NBA level, kind of like a Josh Giddey type of player. I think we could see that. Not a prime Ben Simmons, I think, would be a bad term to use because Ben Simmons was so good and so elite on the defensive end and a better athlete than Demin, but kind of that similar play style as well where he's going to be able to rebound the ball and push the break, start the break. He's got the size to look over defenders and pass over defenders and a really creative, fun player as well. And when you have these athletes like a Tyrese Maxey, like a Justin Edwards, a team that where I think when the 76ers are kind of at their best at times, Kelly Oubre in that mix as well, they're able to get out there and run. And when Joel Embiid is going to be missing games and missing time and you're not playing so much in the half court, you have to be able to get out there and transition. I think Egor Demin really fits that kind of thing. And he's a player that the Sixers haven't had. A player like Egor Demin, the Sixers haven't had a player like that since, Ben Simmons, which is, already 4 or 5 years ago now. But it's a asset that I think the Sixers team is missing and I think would be a welcome addition to the squad if they're able to add him. He really needs to continue to work on his shooting and his outside stroke, but he's got that crafty playmaking ability that's just, high IQ player that can't really be taught. So he's a player that I'm really, I'd say in love with is a little bit of a stretch, but a player that I'm really high on. And I think if he does get that scoring, notch up a little bit to that 13, 14 points per game, I think his rebounding and his assist are going to be good enough to really, cement him as a potential top 5 player at the end of the day in this draft class. So I think he could be in the mix there. He's a player that the Sixers, I think, could add to this roster, and he brings a skill set that they don't really have to this team right now. What's his kind of swing skill, his trait that's going to define him as an NBA player? I think his passing, but I think he's got some more to tap into, and he's still so young and can grow into more. So I really like Egor Demin, and if they do trade back to 7, I think he could be a welcome addition to this team coming off the bench as soon as next year. And another player, I think he is a player that is, besides Cooper Flagg and Dylan Harper, I think this is the player that comes in next season and helps you win the most right away. I don't know how much better he's going to get, but I think he's going to be a really solid NBA player for the next 10 to 12 years if he wants to stick around, in the league that long. Kon Knueppel shot 41% from 3 this year, 48% from the field, 14 points per game. Not going to give you much playmaking, not going to give you much on the glass. 4 rebounds isn't bad, but his skill is he's going to be able to come in and shoot the ball, score the basketball. He's not an overly athletic player, but he knows how to work off screens. He knows how to get open, and he would fit perfectly, I think, too, with a group of athletic guards in a Jared McCain, in a Tyrese Maxey, in a Quentin Grimes. He's that kind of shooter, that role player that the 76ers are kind of in search for, I think, as well this year. And another player that you just continue to add shooting around, hopefully a healthy Joel Embiid. I think he's certainly in the mix, but I wouldn't surprise me just because of how win now ready Kon Knueppel is as a player that someone even takes him a little bit earlier. Whether he goes 4 to Charlotte, I think would maybe be a little bit of a reach, but I could see him going 5 to Utah, 6 to the Wizards potentially. But he is a player I think that would certainly be in the mix as well, and he helps you not only win tomorrow, but I think he's going to be a guy that helps you win for the next 10 plus years. How much better does he ultimately get? How much more of a ceiling does he have to tap into? I don't think nearly as much as Demin, but still, if you're looking for a guy that just helps you come in from day one next year, shoot the lights out, and shoot the cover off the basketball, I think Kon Knueppel is your guy and could make sense for the 76ers there. You bring him off the bench, you're going to be still struggling in terms of the defensive backcourt, I think, is a little bit, but I think that Sixers team next year is just going to be designed to, go out there and score 120, 130 points per game. That really isn't how Nick Nurse teams have been in the past. But when you have all these high-level shooters with a Tyrese Maxey, a Jared McCain, a Quentin Grimes, and you add Kon Knueppel into that mix as well, that's going to be a team that can really shoot the cover off the basketball and really put up some points. You're going to struggle on the defensive end at times and in nights, but I think you're built to kind of win these shootouts. And you look at a team like the Pacers in the NBA Finals right now. What do? They go out there and they play with, lack of a better term, insane pace. They go out there, score a bunch of points. That might be kind of the style of attack that you need to compete in the East next year. Because I think if you look at the Eastern Conference for next year, it's a weakened kind of conference. Like, it's crazy to say it, but the 76ers could be in the mix as soon as next year to be competing for an Eastern Conference title. I don't think it's that far-fetched to say it if all things go well this offseason and if Joel Embiid comes back. So Kon Knueppel, I think, helps slide in and is your seventh guy, in the rotation next year, and he's helping you, from day one, and he's going to be around for the next 10 years or so as well, I think, being able to help as well. So when you look at the Sixers team and the potential moves that they could make on draft night, if they are looking back to trade back with the Pelicans, they move to 7, potentially get a Trey Murphy or a Herb Jones. Those guys slide in, help you from day one as well, probably slide right into the starting lineup too. And then you get a young prospect, whether it's a Demin that I think can help right away, but also has some stuff to tap into, or Kon Knueppel, who's a day one player at the NBA level. I really think so. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Sixers, a lot of smoke tied to them. We're going to try and just touch on every possible angle and give you guys the possible scenarios out here that the 76ers could look into on draft night. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Are you a fan of Demin? Are you a fan of Knueppel? Or are you all in on a guy like Ace Bailey and saying we're not trading back at all? As always, please drop a like, please drop a subscribe, and we'll talk to you next time here on Sixers Digest.